Happy New Year, everybody, and welcome to the first Web Chat of 2024. Of course, this is an ongoing series of discussions that we have where we will talk about all sorts of current and trending issues. And what we will do in this session is look at what 2024 has to offer. So Storm has been organizing this since COVID as a virtual discussion. And the whole idea is for it to be a trending topic and to talk about the issues and to get perspectives about them. All our past discussions are up on the stormasia.com website, that's storm-asia.com. And you can always just go into the WED Web Chat tab and you can look at all the things that we've discussed in the past. Now, as we take our first steps into 2024, I think we bring a lot of baggage from last year into this year. The wars are still raging. The after effects of COVID are still being felt. Costs are rising. The economy is unpredictable for many. And then you have things like generative AI, which is enabling and threatening at the same time. And you've got, of course, global warming, which is still there, although people are trying to do something about it. And it's making things a bit hot under our collar, maybe, but let's see what happens. Now, on top of all that, what's going to happen in 2024? So now, how do we navigate through this terrain? So today's web chat is about that. It's about 2024 navigation strategies. And I've got a mix of panelists, which is quite unusual in some regards, because I've got somebody from the arts, I've got somebody from business, I've got somebody who's into policy and handles larger, bigger picture communications. So we've got Kuo Po, who's creative producer of Amazing Talents International. It's a platform for young artistic talent. Now, Kuo Po has the distinction of being, in the 1990s, Asia's sole singer saxophonist. Right? She represented Singapore internationally in that capacity. She's a singer, a wonderful singer, and now she has brought that talent into the realm of the entertainment business. She opened Java Jive, and she's a show producer and director and a talent developer. Adjunct Prof. Lim Soon Hock. He's a multi-talented founder of PLAN-B ICAG. It's a boutique corporate advisory firm. He's got more than 30 years experience as a board member, CEO, technopreneur, and a private investor. He was a former VP and MD of Compaq Computer Asia Pacific. He took the company to US $1 billion from US $30 million in 7 years. He's now an adjunct professor with the NUS. He's a mediator. He's a photographer and a speaker. Special guest all the way from Romania, but at the moment in Panama, who's stayed up to join this session, Radu Magdin. Radu is the CEO of Smartlink Communications in Romania. He's a global analyst and a consultant, and he was a former advisor to the prime ministers of Romania and Moldova. Now, Smartlink Communications advises people and organizations on how to best manage crisis and their reputations. What I'd like to start off with is maybe to get from each of you what in 2023 left the strongest impression on you, right? Can we start with you, Kuo Po?
Okay, so it's all very personal because a lot of things happened. I lost my company at the beginning of the year, and then I have a personal loss, my mother. But after that, I think that it's really what you say to yourself and what you do with yourself that basically get you up on your feet again. So that was the first quarter. And very soon after, I because I have a skill, and that is to teach and music and all that, I was able to pick myself up. And then I went away. I brought some kids to London to immerse themselves in the theatre scene there, because West End have just like world-class actors, world-class performers, and musical theatre is just the number one over there. And of course, our very own Nathaniel Ong is performing there. And I wanted the children to be inspired by her So I said they need to meet her, and she was running onto her last few months, 3 months in West End already. So we managed to catch her show and had a chat with her backstage, and that was how I mooted the idea of her having a concert when she comes back in October. And after that, I went to Boston and I attended a vocal pedagogy workshop, which I have, been looking forward to. I've not done that for a good many years. In fact, never. And I learned so much from the American vocal pedagogue gigs, so to speak. There were all teachers and all that within the same room. And this is in the Boston Conservatory, which is actually one of the top vocal schools. I came back and I had to finish up my master's, and that was my second year last semester. So it was a lot of stuff. And what was thrown on my lap actually was then the jazz festival, which I've not gotten to the scene for so many years, and just fell on my lap because I have this group called Jazz Kids. And Jazz Kids is actually celebrating its 20th anniversary this year, and I'm actually rebranding and kind of rejuvenating that brand. That was just timely, and then instead of just giving me a set for Jazz Kids, I was asked to program the entire jazz festival at Sentosa called Jazz by the Cove. So I was able to get in touch with all my old buddies again, like Jerry Montero. I was able to bring on Sheila Majid from Malaysia, and got in touch with musicians from Italy, from Japan, and all with the help of technology, Instagram, internet, that we're able to then bring on the best of the musicians to Singapore. After which the jazz is done in about a couple of days, of which then I sprung on to the production of the Nathaniel's concert. So it was just it's just so full of opportunities, even though I had a really bad start to the year. So I think, upon reflection, what I'm trying to say is that I think we shouldn't let ourselves dwell in too much of the negative, and as soon as we can actually springboard and open our eyes and see what's around. And of course, with 2024 around the band, you always want to give yourself new resolutions, new ideas, new creative, platforms. This is really in my world, in my sphere, where I'm thinking about platforming the kids, not just the kids, who is the next artist that I can feature, because the Spirit of Giving, which Nathaniel's concert kicked off a charity concert series, I think a yearly one. And because she set the bar so high, and it was just an excellent, world-class concert at the Esplanade, you kind of wonder, okay, so who's next? Do we have a next artist in line to platform? And the other thing that I thought was very interesting in my production of the Nathaniel's concert was that I worked with Malaysians. And that was the first time for me where I realized that really borders are actually getting very fuzzy, because you can work with musicians overseas and still be able to put on a really good show. My musicians are from Malaysia. My tech crew is from Malaysia. I have my lighting designer, Nagesh, and I have Sunil, my sound engineer. And I'm just like, wow, this is amazing, because they are very professional, and we put up a really good show. And I'm actually looking at more opportunities where we can collaborate and not just talk about talents in Singapore, but actually cross the borders. And technology does enable us with that.
Okay, good. So it's been a busy year from the sound of it.
Absolutely.
But one that seems to be shaping towards something more promising this year for you. Would that be a fair statement? Yeah?
I should say, I should think so. I mean, already it's like, so it's something that I haven't done because I've always, in the last 20 years, what I've done is taken a back seat in the entertainment scene, so to speak, where I was frontlining as you were introducing me, that I was, singer, saxophonist, but I have gone into the realm of education and educating the children in performing arts, teaching them about frontlining, teaching them about performing. And I think that being in this very special space where I have the arts and entertainment, I'm kind of like locked in between there. Arts because they're two separate stuff, but I'm in the arts and in the entertainment, and then I'm in music as well as in the theater. So I'm kind of in a very special place where it's a very unique niche for myself that I think in the year 2024 I'm able to like kind of like put all these together, and I would like to basically showcase my children the talents in Singapore Performing Arts Academy. That's the name of my school, to actually have the experience of doing that, and which I have been doing that for the last 20 years actually. So being in a jazz festival, I think that actually got me back into the realm of the entertainment scene again.
Okay, great. Radu, how about yourself? What's left a strong impression on you?
So first of all, I would say that overall, as an entrepreneur, as a global entrepreneur, somebody running a consultancy which does a lot of, let's say, global politics and global business, we interact with a lot of political leaders and CEOs. I would say that it's been a good year. I know it sounds weird in an environment in which for the past 3 years we tend to complain, perhaps because also a lot of bad things happen. But I think it's the year where a lot of people in politics and business, I mean, particularly the areas in which I interact with, are in a way tired, but in a good sense tired, gritty tired. So they're ready to take the next step forward of, I would say, everything which has to do with this enduring perma-crisis, poly-crisis, or whatever we still call it, right? Because I think that people are no longer willing, and for sure I'm not, me together with my team, we're not either, we're not willing to wait for that perfect year to come, whether that's 2024, 2027, 2032, whatever. I think we're very much, I see a change in mentality after 2-3 years of shocks. First of all, with COVID, then with inflation, then we had, particularly in our region, we had the war in Ukraine, which of course you have a global component of any regional war, right? Because we also have starting October, we also see Israel and Gaza, right? But separate from the global aspects, I think that a lot of the actually active people in different fields across the world simply have lost hope in things getting better by themselves. And all of us, I think we're starting, in a way to simply plan our future despite of all this crisis. So I think that 2024 is, according to a lot of assessments, a tough year. Like 2023 is a tough year, but I honestly believe that a lot of people have charged their batteries during the holidays, are starting to do at least some minimum planning. And I think in 2024, based on the lessons of 2023, we're going to be more prepared. Yes, there will be more technology, more artificial intelligence. Yes, in my political line of work, it is going to be the most historic year so far, because we've never seen so many billions of people come to vote like in 2024. In Asia, particularly, you have an incredible amount of elections in top. When I say top, I mean as in with really high demography. Countries. You have India going to the polls, Indonesia going to the polls, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and so on. And of course, you also have a pan-European election. So it's going to be a hectic year. 2023 was hectic. I think 2024 is going to be even more, with one big difference. I think that 2023 has taught us to really try to plan despite of all this crisis and be perhaps a little bit more optimistic of the future.
Okay. Yeah, what you pointed out about the elections, I think it was reported somewhere, I think 49% of the population will be voting, the global population, and it's something more than 64 countries. And
Yes.
you've, of course, got the big one, the US election coming up, and possibly the UK and maybe Singapore. So, for the local context. So, yes, I think all these changes are something which I think we're kind of getting used to changes, aren't we? From COVID, the whole lifestyle got changed. And then now so many different things are in flux. So it'll be interesting to see how things shape up as well. Sun Hock, how about yourself? Veteran of many changes and ages, what do you see? What was sort of remarkable for you in 2023, and what's to come?
Yeah, I will keep my sharing short and share with you the strongest impression I had of 2024. I've always taken a holistic view of the world. Unfortunately, if you ask me to describe 2020, holistic view of 2024, right? Unfortunately, in 2023, the world hasn't changed much. It's become less safe, less secure, and in a way, a more challenging environment for people to live, work, and play. I think the impression and conclusion that I had, unfortunately and regrettably, is that mankind, unfortunately, are paying for the sins of politicians. If you look at all the problems that we face, it all can be traced back to politicians. We need more responsible and the more rational political leadership to really take the world forward and to make sure that we do not have, the kind of wars that are raging on, the deprivation that is going on, and also the kind of climate changes that are challenging us and threatening us, which require decisiveness, of political leadership. And I'm hoping that in 2024, we are going to see a new generation, a new genre of political leadership who are going to be more responsible and more rational to really look at, the larger interests of the world, their country, and mankind. And that's what I'm hoping for in 2024. And we have never learned from the lessons of the past. If you see what's happening in the world today, we have never learned from the lessons of the past. And I think if you ask me, I would say somewhat mildly, I could be a little bit more tough, but I think politicians are selfish and they're not looking at the wider interest of the community, the world, but more their own selfish political ends. I think this must stop. And I'm looking forward to 2024, to political leadership that are rational, responsible, and decisive, tackle the many problems and challenges that we have, despite the fact that technological advancements, in a way, can actually be harnessed positively to improve the way we work, live, and play. And especially for those of us in businesses, we can harness it to the fullest advantage and reap its full potential.
Yes. So no, thanks. But so is that wishful thinking on your part about the politicians getting, a good set of brains on their shoulders?
Well, I hope it is not wishful thinking. I think that if there are more of us sending out the message, right, and if voters can be convinced, to vote for the right political leadership, then we have less of these kind of problems.
Radu, you've been in this space for a fair bit, right? Understanding what motivates decision makers. What do you say to what Sun Hock has just said?
I think he's right. I think at the same time, we're living in an age where you really gotta have somebody very, very courageous to stop watching weekly or monthly polls or try to abstain from the feedback they're getting on their Instagram, Facebook, or other networks, and simply, together with his or her advisors, simply say like, okay, this is the path forward. We will not derail, no matter what the poll says, say in the next 3-6 months. we're going to move forward, because typically tough reforms, like tough decisions in companies, in NGOs, in any kind of organization, they don't happen by magic in 24-hour time spans. Whereas the pressure that our politicians, and I use the term politicians, not political leaders, because we have, in fact, a lot of politicians and very few political leaders, not to mention very few statesmen or stateswomen. At the same time, I'm being a little bit nice to them. Why? Because I'm not sure if nowadays people such as the Lee Kuan Yew or Churchill or Thatcher, or under the pressure of let's say social media, multiple media channels, and so on, they would not blink. I hope they would not blink for the sake of history, but I'm not sure they would not blink. And I'm not sure how quickly some of them would not be exhausted, right? Because I'll give you the example of Churchill in the Second World War. I'm not sure he would have been very charismatic on TV. I think he was a great radio guy. I think he had a deep voice, and I think he was a very courageous leader. But I'm not sure he would have, gone nowadays on BBC on Hard Talk and simply not be exhausted by one of the journalists who perhaps would be better prepared, at one of the TV shows. So what I'm trying to say is that I hope for some more responsibility, and I think this element of reason combined with data, and the sense of purpose, because I think that all too often our leaders tend to forget their sense of purpose under daily pressures.
Correct.
Their sense of purpose should be, I should lead the country, I should lead a city, and this is sometimes where we fell in love with our mayors, because it's easier to be a mayor, right? You deliver better as a mayor, right? You actually do a nice highway, you do a nice park, it's easier to deliver at a local level. So I would say I'm optimistic in the sense that, again, I have the feeling that we're growing impatient with what some historians would call a wasted decade. I don't think we want a wasted decade. I don't think we can afford a wasted decade with so many crises. So I think there will be a resilience to this. And so I'm a bit optimistic for 2024, because we have no choice. Otherwise, it's going to be a dire world.
Yeah.
I
agree with you, Radu. I agree with you. But the caveat here, again, goes back to what I said. We really need responsible and rational political leadership and politicians. I think, when I talk about political leadership, I'm talking about people who are in politics, right? And I think you just look at the example that is in front of us. We all are feeling, right, the adverse effects of climate change. And then you look at the world leaders, the community of world leaders, what they're doing to kind of tackle that problem. I just hope that, they are serious about it, and they are not ignoring it because they are not going to be around to experience the ill effects of climate change. I think they have got to be decisive and collectively do what is necessary, all right, to tackle. And in that sense, I actually am quite proud of Singapore. I think in the last COP 28, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, we even offered to fund some of these climate change initiatives for the region and good initiatives around the world. And to me, it is putting money where your mouth is. And that's the kind of political leadership that you need to tackle problems not within your own country, but within the region and in the world. And I mean, to me, it is a responsibility of politicians if they want to be politicians, right? And I think your point is absolutely correct. They need to be clear what is their purpose in assuming political leadership, all right, and do whatever that is needed to get there and achieve their purpose. So hopefully there are more clones of the Lee Kuan Yews and the Churchills, all right, who are very decisive, who are very pragmatic and willing to take those tough decisions for the larger good of the community, the region, and the world. We really need that. And I'm hopeful. I'm just hopeful that 2024 will see, a sea change in the political landscape.
Okay, how do we need to approach 2024? Can we do it? Do we have to do it differently? What do we have to do differently in each of your areas. Kuo Po, how about you? What would you have to do differently in 2024?
Okay, first I have to confess I'm not much of a political animal. So
No, in
with what
general,
Radu and in general, actually, I think that in 2024, I always advocate from the changes to start from education, and I did pick up Radu, a couple of the words that you used. That leadership has to be courageous, and Hock says it's about decisive, and I do think that in terms of our education, it needs to move forward in a way that is a lot more courageous, because I think the problems are staring at us in the face, like the buildup of the loss of childhood, the fact that children are so like into enrichments, into tuitions, and parents are so much more into finding tuition classes. I mean, even from P1, I just wonder, when are we going to change from that, and how do we evolve into that? And in going into 2024, I do not see it getting any better. And so we have we have introduced the direct school admission, which actually I'm very how do I say knowledgeable about, because I actually handhold the parents and also guide the children into direct school admission. But I do see that even though it is based on talent, they also want to demarcate certain like point system to that. So it's not really truly a talent-based selection system. It is, academics is always there. And unfortunately, they don't. I mean, there's the likes of Sir Ken Robinson that talk about creativity, but I don't know why arts and music is always at the bottom of the ranking. So in 2024, moving ahead, I still see science, math up there. So when are we ever going to be on par? So education is concerned, I think that that is the first thing that we need to look at if we want any change. To make any decisive difference in the way to move forward. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So Hock,
Okay.
for you,
I will just talk about two differences that I would see in 2024. All right, over 2023. Just concentrate on two differences, which I consider to be quite important, at least in the industries that I'm involved in. I think one is companies and lists and businesses, especially listed ones, will have to increase focus and intensify efforts on sustainability and climate change. These developments and changes have taken on heightened urgency. All right. Not because it's just for the general well-being of the community, but also for the future of the businesses. Right. So more resources, money, and time will have to be allocated to tackle these new challenges. It may not generate returns in the short term, but it is an imperative, from my perspective, for them to stay in business going into 2024 and beyond. I think ESG compliance will be a strategic competitive advantage for those who embark on the sustainability journey early and will generate significant returns in the long run. And the second difference that I see in 2024 over 2023 will be that we will see a greater adoption of generative AI, right? To better understand customers' needs and requirements and to serve them better than before, right? I regard this as a higher, more robust and more rigorous form of data mining that will provide deeper and hidden insights into customers' preferences and needs. In fact, this will offer a quantum leap for businesses to better understand and to better serve the customers. Our Singapore government has taken the lead in this area to better serve our citizens. And I think local companies here and companies based here can actually take the cue from our government. And in my own opinion, these two differences going into 2024 will without doubt revolutionize the way we live, work, and play. So just those differences, because I will leave it to the other panelists to share other differences.
Sure. So just picking up on your generative AI comment and Radu, what you raised about the large number of elections taking place this year. Generative AI comes in at a quite fortuitous time in that regard. If you bring the two together, would it have a part to play in elections around the world? Because it would offer more insight, maybe, right? It would help politicians, political parties get a better sense of what's really taking place, because Gen AI is going to crunch a whole lot more data and give you maybe a different or slightly tweaked version of what you think is going to take place as a politician. Do you think Gen AI is going to have an influence in elections around the world?
For sure, and it already does. I mean, separate from what we saw a few years ago and here, as always, America is at the forefront, and I think a lot of people will be watching elements of creativity, which will subsequently maybe exported across the world after US elections. We've seen applaud for online campaigning in Obama times. Then we saw a series of elements, including some of them controversial, in the successful Trump campaign and online campaigning. And separate from that, I would say that, of course, like any technologies and platforms, they can be used depending on your intent, for the good or for the bad. I mean, me personally, I can get excited about generative AI for the wealth of information, and also for elements of creativity which serve a positive purpose. At the same time, I always warn our clients, both from politics and business, about the danger of deepfakes, who have become so easy and to within grasp almost. I mean, you don't even need a professional opponent, to create software nowadays gives combined with enough data online for that software, to extract, let's say visual elements, or audio elements, literally a deep fake with any one of us is within reach. Not to mention when you're talking about a high political player or a high level CEO who has had several interviews on YouTube, and therefore has provided insights into personality, tonality, and other aspects. So I would say we're heading for a lot of showtime in 2024, for the good or for the bad. Now, in my opinion, people who exaggerate their deepfakes and who exaggerate and go towards the incredible of technology, and I'm sure in terms of arts, Kuo Po knows much better what's credible and incredible and emotional, right? I think a good deepfake, for example, in politics, or a good campaign is almost credible. If something, if I see something online which simply is not Radu, is simply not Kanan, simply no Kuo Po, simply no Lim Soku, Hock, right? Then I wouldn't believe it. But if something is credible enough, I think this is where the danger is. Like 95% of the message correct, and then suddenly somewhere over there which doesn't really fit, but in a wider picture, could bring something. So we're heading for manipulation. This information is already a soundbite for years right now. But I am confident. Why? Because I think, again, we have seen some practicing in 2023. We have seen so much unleashed creativity in social networks, right? With ChatGPT and so on. So I don't think we're fundamentally surprised by 2024, but we may see some interesting applications.
So Radu, if I may add on to what you said, because I have been following, generative AI a lot, deep fakes and all that, right? If you look at it, at the end of the day, these are human created problems, right? And because they are human created, in my own simple mind, it can always be solved by human. And it should go back to the providers of this kind of services and software. So the likes of X, the likes of Facebook, you name it, Google, they have got to take a very responsible approach to make sure that there are checks and balances in place. In fact, even software identification or traceability capabilities to make sure that deep fakes are not allowed to be perpetuated. I mean, for me, I don't know whether it's a compliment to me or it's a threat. I often get, myself passed in Facebook, and I've written to Facebook many times, and I said, please get this removed because somebody, has been using my identity and passing off to my friends, And you know something? Till today, not to be overly critical of Facebook, they never come back to me and say, I've taken action. Maybe because they have got thousands of this kind of feedback. But this is where the problem lies. All right. And this is where I think government, like what you see happening in the United States and Europe, right? Going after all the software providers to say, you got to take action and you have to be responsible, for the consequences that you are helping through deepfakes and how your technologies have been abused. It has got to be tackled at source, unfortunately, if we are going to provide the service. And I speak as somebody from Compact, who take a very responsible view on how we sell our products and services those days.
Where do you see the opportunities in 2024? Where do you see them emerging, maybe, or already in place, but maybe developing better?
Are you asking me?
In general, all of you.
Okay, maybe let me start.
Okay.
Somewhat differently. I think there will always be opportunities and challenges. I mean, it doesn't matter what industries you're in, whether it's in the arts, like what Po is in, or whether Radu is in. I mean, what is important to me and will make a significant difference is recognizing them and understanding them in the context of enterprise risk management. All right. I think in this regard, it is imperative that companies spend time in understanding what could go wrong. Kanan, I contribute an article to you on that, right? And not be caught with unpreparedness and not having the resilience, to overcome unforeseen obstacles or major disruptions to the businesses, as has been amply and undisputably, shown by the havoc created by COVID-19. And I think we all know even a very successful company like Singapore Airlines was not spared. So, I mean, to me, it's not for lack of opportunities. It's not for lack of challenges. I think plenty around, okay? But it is really recognizing them and making sure, we are not overly confident with what we're trying to pursue, but always allocate enough time, at least starting from the board all the way down, to understand what could go wrong and be prepared for any crisis.
Okay. Radu?
In terms of opportunities, I do believe a lot in the elements of preparations. And I think that the past few years have been nasty on us, and that was good for our overall resilience and for how we're mobilizing for such an important year in terms of, let's say, elections. What I fear is something else. And I see this an opportunity, but this time to Kuo Po's side, I see a big opportunity for storytelling via arts. Why do I say this? Because storytelling via arts inspires and it's positive. I think that we've seen so much polarization, and it's so tiring, and it's keeping people away from the pulse. And unless we have some inspiration, and the arts provides that inspiration, I'm afraid that there will be a lot of gloominess around.
Yeah, right. I think the arts and Kuo Po, what you said about education earlier, being educated maybe in a slightly different way might help you spot things quicker, maybe, or view things differently, and come up with different methods of approaching problems or developing opportunities.
Yeah.
Is that what you had in mind when you were talking about education?
I think that with the advent of AI and technology, it's inevitable that the arts need to work alongside with that. I mean, we're talking about traditional arts. We're talking about digital that is the future. I mean, it's a now. It's not even the future. So when we talk about education, yes, it is about having to educate our children, putting music and all that, giving them a more holistic education. It should have been done like years ago, or maybe it's being done, but very minimally, because it's only like once a week they get to have a little speech and drama from, the outsource a teacher from outside of the school. So there's very minimal time being spent in that. So with technology, I think that there's a lot more and many prongs that we can actually help to springboard art within the schools. It is with technology. I think that performing artist, can also learn how to use that to kind of help themselves to get out there. So opportunities are plenty. I think that we need to keep positive and making sure that we don't, like I said, wallow in the negatives and in what's not being done for us, but more so what we can do for ourselves moving forward. I always have this policy for myself. If I can't find, a stage for my children, I will create the stage for them. So that's basically how I've been working all these years.
Ah, cool. Yeah. I mean, if you have the ability to build something, then build it, right? I'm just wondering, with the mindset of going out and doing your own thing, whether more people would prefer to do their own thing rather than go and join a large organization and be caught up in corporate politics and all kinds of other issues that might get in the way. If you look at the consumption of online media, certainly content creators have a large part to play in continuing to hold their attention. And these days, almost anybody can be a content creator. And the likes of Google and Facebook and all will pay them. YouTube would pay if you get the hits, right? So, do you think more people would move away from the large organizations and prefer to do their own thing?
Absolutely. I think that, when it comes to musicians and artists, performers, we have always been a lot more creative in basically finding ways to be seen online, and that has worked very well for some of the artists. Of course, the magic is okay. I mean, what is the magic in being spotted? Because now we're lost in the sea of many social media platforms and videos. So who's going to notice you? How are you going to get noticed? And even sometimes it's not the talent, but it's the whole concept and the idea that gets you noticed and going viral. So yes, I think a lot of performers and musicians are actually taking things into their own hands. And that's how I spotted a couple of the musicians that I brought down for the jazz festival, because during COVID they can't perform anywhere, so they started their own channels, and they starting to get a lot more followers and people that are viewing, supporting them, and they became famous online, rather than being managed by a big company, which used to be, back in the 80s, which then it's also a hit and miss. So, yeah, that's how some artists are being known now. So I should see that that's the direction that we're all going.
Okay. And Radu, yep.
Sorry.
So now, yep.
I think whether to be self-employed or to work for somebody is not a very simple decision in my view. All right. I mean, despite the fact that social media, for example, may offer a lot more opportunities and newer ones, right, and challenging ones. I say it's not simple because it's a multidimensional problem. It is complex. There are many considerations one has got to make. But having said that, for the younger people who are on this web chat, because you have a longer runway, all right, if you can be entrepreneur, at this stage of your life, go for it. Yeah. But having said that, you must be prepared to take the knocks because it is not easy. I mean, I've been on both sides of the fence, right? Being employed, right? And on the other hand, starting my own corporate advisory practice for 20 over years now, right? You really have got to be prepared, all right, to take the hard knocks, not to get the kind of corporate support that you want. Funding is always a big issue. If you've got a new product and service to offer, how to reach out, how to get customers, how to get the traction, it's tough. It's tough. But if you have a long runway, go for it because there's so much you can learn by being an entrepreneur.
Radu, what are your thoughts?
I've been an entrepreneur for 11 years now, and I never regret it one day. The freedom it gives me, the possibility to arrange my agenda. Of course, I periodically, together with my team, we are facing elements of turbulence, either because sometimes we have built on good to great years, and then we have became too confident, perhaps, and we haven't been cautious, in some of our expansion steps, but then we recover. Or because, of course, periodically, like all economies, we face natural recession. But I would say the following: I think there are huge opportunities for entrepreneurs for entrepreneurship in 2024, with the following caveats: focus. Focus, I think, is very important. Yes, the world has 8 billion people, but they will not instantly become your clients unless you're a viral key opinion leader, and then you can monetize that. So I would say focus. Global, I think it's also important. Entrepreneurs may be surprised that once they have a skill which translates into a good service or product, there may be an audience for that across different continents. And I think elements of ambition and trusting yourself, because if you don't trust yourself, nobody will.
Cool, thanks. We're just over the time limit already. I just wanted to give one sort of a wrap-up perspective from each of you. What would you be looking for in 2024? Kuo Po?
This is the 20th anniversary of my foray into children's arts space, where I educate them in performing arts. So I intend to have a big show, 2024, and the 20th anniversary of Jazz Kids as well. So that's what I'm really excited about, just to create more platforms for them, and to build up the school, Singapore Performing Arts Academy, to make it a little bit more international, bringing my kids overseas, bringing in international teachers and all that. And I think that in 2024, I just hope that everybody would just sit up and give more support to our local talents, because we have lots of them here. Yeah, okay. I think that's a lot more to do. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Radu, how about yourself?
I talked a lot about politics so far, but I would say what excites me more and what interests me more, and here's also the link with Singapore in a way, particularly on trade, more on politics, this global supply chain redesign. I think it's not as revolutionary as people say, but it's happening. It is happening, whether due to disruption in the Red Sea with the Houthi rebels, or due to, Ukrainian reconstruction opportunities. This is happening. So I'm following really closely region per region, but that also the global assembly of this supply chain redesign. I think globalization is here to stay, but we should be watching the new maps of the supply chains.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. So, Hock?
Only one, the more rationality, more responsibility, and decisiveness in the political landscape to tackle all the current problems and future problems that will come in 2024. And I think if that happens, I'm very confident we can look forward to a better age in 2024 and beyond. Our destinies are very much in the hands of the politicians and political leadership. Seriously.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Hock, Radu, and Kuo Po. The discussion traversed quite a vast terrain from education through to politics, through to responsibility, resilience. But at the end of the day, I think it's important how you tell your story, right? So, do you tell it with negativity, with optimism, with a positive bent? You construct the narrative. And I think maybe that positive mindset is something we all need to take into 2024.